For more, we're joined by Kethevane Gorjestani from our International Affairs Desk. The Houthis, who had, again, largely stayed out of it in the first part of this war between the months of February and April, now it's really heating up, particularly with Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and it does look like the Houthis, for now at least, are trying to explain their positioning now by saying that this is about Saudi Arabia. They're not saying we're entering this war on behalf of Iran. It's because of what Saudi Arabia has been doing with Yemen, and that it's a counter to their own blockade of the Houthis. So they're not trying to be simply a proxy of Iran. So it's always a little bit more complicated with the Houthis. But the fact is that it is helping Iran because by getting into this war and sort of creating a second form of blockade in the other big sort of choke point for international trade, they are creating a second big problem for world trade, but also that means for the Americans. And it also means that if this continues and the Houthis stay in this process and continue to attack ships, then both the Americans and the Saudis are going to have to be taking care of both sides of these waterways and have more places where they need to be vigilant about what is going on. And the repercussions, of course, on global trade, on oil prices, on gas prices, that could get even worse with a situation right now that is already getting worse simply by what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. So this is, of course, very bad news if the Houthis keep this up. And that's why you're seeing a lot of people like Marco Rubio, like the Europeans saying, look, this is not a good development. We're hoping that this is not the Houthis really getting into this. But this will have to be really closely monitored because it could make things way, way worse than they already are.
So the U.S. calibrating, from what you're saying, its message when it comes to the Houthis for now. There's trouble, like you say, on both sides of the Arabian Peninsula. Time's on whose side in all this?
Look, it's clear that for the Americans and for this administration, the political timing is not on their side because you have the midterms coming up. We know that this war is by and large unpopular, even though it's a little bit tricky to see who exactly supports what. But the fact is, what is very unpopular is high gas prices. And right now, yes, they started dropping, but they're inching back up and they're above $4 a gallon right now, and that can be a problem going into the midterms, into the summer season, and then the midterms. So politically, obviously, the U.S. has more to lose about the situation, even though economically, it's much harder for the Iranians, but the Iranians, the regime, doesn't have the same sort of relationship with their population. They can take more attacks, they can take more deaths, they can take more economic pain than the political system and the president in the United States. So it seems right now that the Iranians are sort of playing the clock, but they are also taking a lot of hits, whether it's physically, structurally, or economically, and it's unclear how long the Iranians also can keep this up because we know we're in the 12th night of strikes, and it's really unclear how far the Iranians can actually keep this up against an army, the U.S. Army, that is way bigger and way more developed than their own.